Recorded live from the secret underground lair of Crimson Cowl Comics and Collectibles, this is the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast.
The following issues may contain spoilers. I believe what doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger. I'm Anthony.
I'm Kirby.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Jim.
Welcome to issue number 275 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast. Each and every time we record, we talk about comics. On this week's show, we're going to have a club discussion for the much anticipated Marvel Age 1000. We've all been collecting Marvel Ages 1 through 999, so we're here to talk about that 1000th issue. Then we're going to jump into the weekly reviews. That's where we go back and forth, talk about the books that we've been reading, whether they're new, whether they're old, we're going to talk about them there. Then we're going to do a news segment, and I'm going to do my final part of my Fan Expo Chicago 2023 recap. You can check out the past videos for the first two recaps of me going through Artist Alley, and this will be the final recap, and it's the Creature from the Black Lagoon edition. I've been saving up all my creature purchases, and that's all going to happen later on in the news. And then we're going to do the Marvel and DC Comics September 2023 previews catalogs, going through those pre-order catalogs, talking about what we're excited about, what we're going to order, and let you know all about that. Before we do any of that, you'll happen to notice not only with the thumbnail picture of this YouTube video, also with the emblem on my chest here, is that we are celebrating a very special day on the day of this recording. And everybody all around, I believe not just America, but probably the world celebrates this. So everybody, happy Katie Day, because it is club member Katie's birthday. Happy birthday, Katie.
Thank you, everybody.
And now, while Katie Day is pretty huge, it's been kind of overshadowed over the last couple years, as there's a character named Batman that has kind of just moved in and trying to take her day from her. But you know what? We're going to make room for everybody to be celebrated. So what we're going to do before we jump into the show proper is kind of talk about, maybe just do a little show and tell or just mention something. I think we had done something similar to this last year, so we'll see what happens. But I will kick it off. I always mention how I love Batman Returns is my favorite, like Batman anything, and I just love my Kenner Batmissile Batmobile. It's one of the childhood toys that I've had, and then I had eventually given it away, went into the rummage sale, and then I've always been on a many a year hunt to try to get this back, and finally found one. And it was important to have the cockpit shield here, having that, because most of them wouldn't have that, and I'm like, that's what makes this one special, because the model from the first movie purposely didn't have that at all. So this is my favorite Batmobile from the Tim Burton Michael Keaton movies. So that is one of my favorite pieces. And then to go along with the Batman Returns, these things, which I still have, I love the Batman trading cards. And I got the set for the first movie, but the Batman Returns ones, and I think they came with like sticker sheets back then and stuff too. And I just love, I would just look at these like constantly. So yeah, I always had them in a binder. I brought them out here. I've got them in a different case to show off. But yeah, these things were awesome. I love collecting them, getting the packs, and I don't know if they came with bubble gum back then. Maybe that was something else, but I do remember there being like a sticker. I think there was like a sticker book that you could get stickers from these packs, I think, and then put them in a separate book or something like that. But yeah, all I know is that I just love those trading cards, and everything Batman Returns is my favorite thing Batman related. We'll go around the bat circle here, around the bat cave. Kirby, anything to kind of show off or talk about Batman?
Nothing really to show off other than the stuff I got in my background here, but it's basically the Michael Keaton Batman Returns era. That whole period was like a huge moment, just a big, wide-eyed opening era for us, just finally seeing our superheroes come to life on the big screen. and the items that came along with it, it just basically ignited the over the overpiling of merch from everything, because you had your McDonald's Batman stuff, you had your different fast food items, you had store exclusives, just characters wazoo. It just kind of like just took over Star Wars. It's just
Yeah.
huge impact at that time, and it was just so fun to see. And it's just, yeah, it was always childhood favorite character, one of the favorite characters, the normal guy, no superpowers, just out and about, just kicking butt and taking names. And yeah, it's always been a highlighted character throughout all the comic book stuff for me. But
What I love about the action figure line that spawned out of that was just that they would use that same mold, but then do different paint jobs. So they'd have jungle Batman and like aquatic Batman and like every color you can imagine, every color under the rainbow. And they would just, things that you would never see, and obviously not in the movies at all. But it's just like, hey, same exact Batman figure, just a different color scheme. And I got them all anyway, so it worked. We'll jump over to Katie now. Once again, it might be a sensitive subject talking about Batman Day on Katie Day, but if you had anything to share.
Yeah, so I tend to enjoy more of the what if or the, Elseworlds non-canon line Batman stuff. I talk about it a lot, but I think my favorite is probably the White Knight universe. I like that quite a bit. I think about a month ago I read Beyond the White Knight, and the Generation Joker will be released in trade. I want to say next year, early spring, but I'm really excited for that. But that's what I like about Batman. I like them because like you don't have to know everything about Batman to appreciate them, and they're still telling like really great stories. Um and yeah, I'm really glad that I can share Katie Day with Batman. I feel like I'm being very generous there, but yeah, that's what I like about Batman. Obviously, is a very popular character and a comic book fan favorite. So yeah.
Excellent. And we'll skip Jim because I don't think he likes Batman. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I'm not into Batman at all. But I do have this one little thing that sits around here in the basement near my stuff. And it is this actually giant toy Batman. Normally they're like this big, but this one was like, I saw him in the store and I had to get it. But, and as far as Batman or anything else, I'm not into just collecting stuff just to have collecting stuff like you guys are.
Yeah.
I mostly like to have the stories. I like to have the comic books, digital, real ones. I do have a few special issues that I have gone and looked for that I remembered, but yeah, for me it's mostly the stories, whether it's the current canon or the Elseworlds and other stories, the Earth 2 stories, that kind of stuff. Those are fun just to have them as a self-contained thing. You can just read it and be done with it and enjoy that story rather than have to expand into the whole universe. But yeah, so the secondary stories are always fun for me too. So, and I will be talking about one of them later on too. So,
And Batman's a big part of your Crimson Cowl origin, coming into the shop and looking for the detective comics that you were seeking out.
absolutely, one of the first times I went in there, I asked if they had back issues or if they could search back issues because I was looking for a particular one that I have since gotten, not through them, unfortunately, but I was able to pick up. And yeah, it's one of my prized possessions at the moment, Detective Comic 485.
Oh, cool. Kirby?
And for fans of Batman, or if you have an Xbox at the moment, I'm just cruising through because I got to spend my leftover $9 before they take it away from me. And they have the Lego Batmans, the Lego DC villains, the regular Batman games, the Injustice and Injustice 2 games. All are 75 to 85% off right now. So
Wow.
I'm gonna probably pick up Lego Batman. I haven't got the original one yet. Debating between that and one of the Injustice games, but yeah, that's a pretty good deal.
It makes me want to pop in the Lego Batman movie tonight while I draw or
Yeah.
something. So that's
Yeah.
I like that too.
Cool. So yeah, that was that Batman Day at your local comic shop. If they partake in the celebration, DC had released some, I think, kind of some recent reprints, but kind of rebranding it for Batman Day. And so they had Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo, a special edition issue of that, as well as Batman Catwoman, the Gotham War Prelude special edition. So I know those are some of the things, and this will be posted after the fact, but if your store celebrated, those are things that may have been available, or maybe they got some left over. But yeah, so Batman Day is a thing. It's been going on for feels like a half a decade at this point. I think it was maybe something that it's still relatively recent. Maybe just with the craze of your May the 4th and with the free comic book day stuff happening at like, early summer and things that it's a nice little celebration to do, especially before the Halloween Comic Fest. But Batman Day is here to stay as well as Katie Day. We celebrate both of them today. And we celebrate them by talking about the Marvel Age, issue number 1000. This is one of our club discussion picks here. It's a celebration of the Marvel Age of Comics, and you are invited. The massive commemorative issue includes contributions from some of the most storied creators in Marvel history, as well as a few surprises, as the classic days of Marvel are explored in depth. J. Michael Straczynski and Kari Andrews create the Marvel Universe in a backyard. Dan Slott, Michael, and Laura Allred depict a crucial turning point for Captain Marvel. Rainbow Rowell and Jamie McKelvey explore the blossoming relationship between Cyclops and Jean Grey. The origin, or the original Human Torch, finds his purpose thanks to Mark Waid and Alessandro Capuccio. The Silver Surfer confronts Mephisto under the guidance of Steve McNiven. There is a lot of stuff happening. This is a $9.99 book, but there's tons of creators. And I think we mentioned, most of them, but we have a list of them on the back as well. What we're going to do is we talk about this rather than going through all, roughly, these are normally like 96 pages or something like that. Just kind of take turns, kind of talking about maybe some of the favorite stories and expand on that. And like I said up top, we've all been as a club have been there since Marvel Age number 1, and we've been picking up every single issue along the way. And we all have 999 issues of this, so it felt good to finally get that issue number 1000. So listen back to our 999 episodes to hear about us talking about each and every one of these very much real existing issues. Marvel Age 1000, I will throw it over to Kirby first if there's anything you want to kind of spotlight, things that you liked from this.
Well, I did have a little thing for each one of them, but they were all wonderful stories. The first story was kind of like a Frankenfire Pinocchio story playing with the Human Torch. I assume it's a Human Torch character. They kind of the words that went around and stuff. This was one of my favorites.
This would be the original Human Torch, not like the Johnny Storm, but one like Marvel Comics like number 1 or something. So yes,
that helps out a lot because this was one of my top 2 stories, and I love this style of the Human Torch, where I'm not a huge Fantastic Four fan, but I love the way they played this Frankenstein Pinocchio style version with him. Spidey Lizard, don't lose your head during a photo shoot when you're going to a dinner party story. That was a lot of fun, getting to see Spidey in battle and then dealing with all the family and stuff. The Genie Smurf story, that was probably my least liked. I liked them all.
Smurf story.
What's that?
The Smurf story?
Yeah, I call it Genie Smurf because
she's the only female.
The only girl in the whole X-Men crew that everybody's after.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything.
It's like, leave her alone. For Christ's sakes. It's like, but yeah, we all know who's gonna be the main love interest and all that stuff, but it's like everybody else has to make their little things towards her. The Dupe Supreme story, the Slot Allred, that was a lot of fun. Basically chill out and face the music. Liar Liar, Brain on Fire, the brain explosion story was a fun one. I'd have to say the All Red was probably my other top two. Uh, the Darkness Ahead, Where is the Belief? Can't remember what that story was all about. But yeah, it was with Daredevil the Silver Surfer, just kind of in his loneliness. It was a lot of fun. Then, well, actually, one of my favorite stories was I call it Don't Look Up, You Might Miss What Matters. That was really enjoyable, seeing a normal person just dealing with the superhero life around her. And then being weirdly creative can make the world fun and livable. That was interesting look at basically the creators themselves, which I love how they ended it with something like that.
Yeah.
And then I really liked in the back pages these little stamps. I wish they'd show up at the USPS, but seeing that little Jeff the Land Shark stamp.
So these stamps, it was like a decades old thing, and then I know during the Crimson days they did these stamps and they did physical ones, and they gave just these giant things that you could collect and put all the stamps on and everything. But now we see, and as the more of the digital age continues to go forward, now they're just cut them out. If you what does it say? It says clip them, collect them, or don't.
Yeah, back in the 90s too, they had like full sheets of all the different superheroes. I got some of those packed away with the rest of my stamps somewhere. But yeah, this is a really fun book.
Cool. We'll jump over to Jim. Thoughts on Marvel Age 1000?
I thought this was a lot of fun for the most part. I enjoyed the whole book. I particularly liked the first story, the Human Torch, because while I am not a huge Human Torch or Fantastic Four fan, I was aware that the original Human Torch before the Fantastic Four had been a robot android character. And I remember as a kid, there was a Fantastic Four cartoon where they did not have Johnny Storm. They had a robot with them.
Robbie
so this really brought that story back to life for me too. So
yeah, that was I believe it has history with being the fact that like kids are watching this and having a guy who is lit on fire and stuff, that they didn't want like the fear of kids setting themselves on fire and becoming Johnny Storm. Here's our robot friend.
There you go. Yeah.
I knew he was nearby, but yeah, he was like the replacement character. But yeah, going back into the Human Torch. Now I may get some of this wrong, just comics just get wild, but I think like the Human Torch, and like I think his brain and like Ultron's, like the creation of Ultron, there's like this whole thing where these brain patterns, and I think there's something with the Human Torch that for the comic wise that were he was used, and I think they dive deep into that in some of the Vision stories and stuff like that. But like there's a lot of like stuff that they've done kind of to make use of that character, but I thought this was a real interesting approach too. So,
and I also thought the last story with the creators as kids was really a good idea, cute, rendering, and how the Marvel came about for the most part. And beyond that, I think my favorite story was the Thor one with the like Kirby said, with the non-superhero who just who really didn't care about superheroes, but had actually a negative attitude about them, but then encountered Jane Foster and helped her out when she was suffering, and then became a huge Thor fan after the fact.
yeah, going into that story, I saw that Jason Aaron was the writer. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good no matter what. And then I wasn't even starting to process being like, oh, he's going to play with Jane Thor again, because that's what he's, he's known for Marvel and stuff for the Thor stories. Be it, he's done a lot of Thor, but that was one of the big things. So that was a fun little surprise in there.
Yeah, I liked how she changed her jacket from like all the punk rock stuff, and had the big Mjolnir on the back patch of her jacket at the end.
Yeah, if there aren't cosplayers out there making that jacket right now, I think they're, just waiting for the materials to come in because yeah, that was a real sweet design on the back there, and it'd be a pretty awesome thing to see out in the wild.
Yep, that
Um,
would be cool. But yeah, I learned a few things about Marvel that I didn't know before, and there you go.
yeah, just flipping through it to get at that for people to see. That was awesome.
And,
Well, cool.
some of the characters were fairly new to me that I have never really done much with, especially the original Captain Marvel, and
Yeah.
so that was interesting to read that. Mhm.
So, uh, touching on some of my favorites, the Spider-Man and Lizard story, noticing that Ryan Stegman not only did the art for it, but also as the writer, which was cool because I saw his name listed and I'm just looking, being like, all right, where's the writer credit? I'm like, oh, it's story by Ryan Stegman, and then he had colors and assist on inks and stuff like that. So Ryan Stegman, who is definitely built a career off of drawing his Spider-Man and stuff and working for Marvel. It was kind of cool to see him being able to tackle duties of pencil and story for this one. And it's a fun cookie cutter type of story, and it just had I always like just kind of jumping back in time and catching little glimpses of these where you just don't really, you don't need to explain a lot of things, and it's just another person's take on a story that we all know. I really enjoyed the Gene and Scott one, mostly for the Marguerite Savage art. Savage. Whenever we see her art in there, it's one of those that's just extremely recognizable every time their work is in a book. It's just there's no doubting. So I got pretty excited when just flipping through and just seeing those color tones and stuff like that, and I'm just like, yep, that is definitely going to be a story to follow. And as I flip through here and just call out some of the favorites. Of course, the All Reds one, that was my main sell for this. Going into some of these, I'm thinking like, all right, I usually get these stories, but can I save $10 somewhere? Do I need to get this? And then, of course, they throw in for the first time since the All Reds and Slot Silver Surfer story, they work together on something and doing this Captain Marvel story and going into it through the solicits. I assumed it was going to be the original Captain Marvel, but I was happy to see that this was, throwing in Carol in there because basically what this story did was kind of going at a different angle of the origin story, dealing with Marvel and Jan Rog and Carol and all of the stuff that with the Kree, all of the stuff that we see in the story is essentially kind of like a retelling at a different angle, and obviously adding what seems to be written specifically for the All Reds with that ending. We talk spoilers on here, and this could just be an ultimate sell, but seeing the silhouettes of because all Reds are just huge music fans, and you got your Beatles and you got your Bowie in there, and you got some Elvis and looks like Jimi Hendrix, I'm assuming. Uh, yeah, so that was just cool because I was watching this, I was reading this, and just being like, yep, Dan Slott just kind of teed this up for all Reds to just be like, to go nuts. So they know how to work together, and it was fun to see that, especially in a book where there is a Silver Surfer story. But Dan Slott recently talked about that on a Word Balloon interview with John Suntress, and I had actually commented in there and just gave him the 250th time that I've praised him for that series, just saying how it's my favorite. And they've been asked before about if they would ever revisit this, and I think at a time they thought it would be fun to do like a little one shot here and there, but ultimately Dan was just saying, he's like, it ended so perfectly, they did everything they wanted to do in those 29 issues, and it's one of those things that he just wants to leave off into the corner and being like, what, that's a complete thing. He's like, I do not want to touch that and ruin it. It's such an important project for them, and they got to do everything they wanted. So this time we got, you know, um, Steve McNiven jumping in for the Silver Surfer story, doing all the work on this one here, and just doing great job. Telling a very typical surfer story and just getting in with that inner monologue and bringing in Mephisto as a deep cut. A character that was showing up in issue 3 of the original Surfer series. So a lot of people probably wouldn't associate Mephisto and Silver Surfer too much. A lot of that comes in with like Spider-Man and stuff like that. So it is a very natural fit to include him in there. It's just kind of a little nod. I agree once again with the story that Jason Aaron did here with Pepe Larraz and talking about this young girl, always being asked about, did you see a superhero? Do you see a superhero being in New York and talking about, losing her mom and that the superheroes weren't there to help her mom and stuff. And it was such a great story. And anytime they do these kind of things where they focus on the ground level and the people that are not fascinated by superheroes, every once in a while you get a story like this. But I think this one was extra special, especially with the Jane Foster Thor inclusion with Jason Aaron writing her into that story, and that was just magical. And then finally the last one that I dug to was going through and finding out about the kids on the steps and talking about stories and talking about drawing, and then getting your little reveal about their names being called in for lunch or dinner, and you just get Stan, Jack, Steve, and just getting those little moments, because then you flip back being like, oh, I see what they're doing here. It was such a fun yeah, everything here was pretty great, and seems like we're all pretty much on board, and high praise on that. Any other thoughts that you guys want to throw out there?
I just wanted to follow up on your comments regarding the Spider-Man story and Ryan Stegman being able to do both. I think that's what's great with like some of these books like this tribute style, where they get to write a little bit of a shorter story and step into like a role they don't normally get to do, like write instead of draw, or write and draw instead of just the other. So for, or to cover a character they don't normally do, or something like that. It's kind of cool to see that happen in some of these books too. I noticed it more with the different creators in the DC anthology books than this, but yeah, I think that's always interesting to see that happen too.
I don't know how it went down, but I can only imagine that's one of those things where he just gets an email in his inbox. He's working on his independent series and stuff. He's been building up his creator owned career, but I can imagine he just gets an email just saying, "Hey, you want to write and draw a short Spider-Man story?" And that seems like something, especially for Ryan Stegman, where you're like, "Do I even have to say yes?" Like, yes, of course, because that just seems like it was a perfect fit, and like you said too, it's kind of nice little nod and kind of an awesome little thank you and stuff too. So cool. All right,
Yep.
but yeah, this was a very fun issue. I think it's very accessible to a lot of people out there. Just kind of dipping into different eras of these characters and not really being weighed down by needing backstories and things like that. And while it is a $10 book, there's a lot of content here and a lot of creators, and yeah, this one seems like a pretty top-notch hit right here. So that was Marvel Age 1000. Cool, cool. And then as a reminder for ongoing club discussions, we have future issues coming up. A mini series, Marvel Unleashed #1. Issue 1 is out there on the shelves, so we will be talking about that at our next convenience once we have everybody who is reading that to be available. Then we have a one shot of Alligator Loki, so definitely the Marvel animals and the Marvel pets are all taking advantage here because it's Jeff, the Jeff verse. That's also another one too. And hey, we have My Little Pony, Black, White, and Blue. Looks like we have a lot of animal stuff. And then we have Once Upon a Time at the End of the World #9, which has a lot of animalistic love happening in that book. So it's there's a theme going on as we go into the fall of Crimson Cowl comics. That's fall of the season, not the fall of not the demise. But so yeah, anyways, that's just kind of a little preview for upcoming club discussions. We decide on more picks as we jump through the catalogs and we find out that we have at least 3 people checking something out. And that will be the same for this episode as we jump into that later. But before we get to that, we're going to jump over to the weekly reviews. Welcome to the weekly reviews. Let's kick it off with Kirby. What you got?
Fearless Dawn Cold. It's a one-shot. Beautiful virgin cover on the front and the back. Get two versions of Fearless Dawn. Surprisingly, this does take place in winter, and she actually wore a jacket this time. So she's not running around completely naked in the snow, but she is struggling to get through it, doesn't know where she's going. And this is all done. This whole comic is sideways, and it's black and white. And she's struggling to get through the snow, expecting to die because she has no idea where she is, where she's headed, what's up ahead. And as she's going through, well, she's going up a hill, she all of a sudden sees a cabin at the top of the hill that she climbed, and goes, the door's locked, so she takes something and throws it through a window, breaks in, gets inside. You start to think the Three Bears story with Goldilocks or something. It's kind of got a play on that to start with, because she starts going through their food, sees a fresh baked pie and all this stuff. And while she's filling her stomach and warming up, the Nazi zombie crew are on their way with a tank headed in the same direction. And they end up finding the cabin. And I thought at first it was their cabin, but apparently not, because they had to kick the door in to get in and go to see what's going on inside. And they find Fearless Dawn sitting inside, filling her face. And they all just grab their guns. She jumps up, grabs her pistol. They're shooting each other. They're all standing about 5 feet away from each other, just unloading their weapons. I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be the first ridiculous Fearless Dawn story. Well, they're all ridiculous, but completely ridiculous. But then we find out that everybody's got blanks, and they go back and forth trying to decide what they're going to do next, if they're going to pull out knives or whatever. And they notice that their commander and one other of the zombies are just sitting in front of a window, completely frozen. And it's like they're not responding to anything. They're not moving. She tries to pour some water down their throat to see if they're parched or something like that. And the water just flows out their mouth. And all of a sudden there's a big boom, and eventually those two characters just start floating and then float out the window and go flying off into space, into this town where there's like it's kind of like in the city, and it takes them to, I don't think it's a mental hospital, I think it's a regular hospital, but somehow it kind of links us back to the original story. And then all of a sudden we see Fearless Dawn laying in a hospital bed. She's got a bullet wound in her leg, and she's recovering from something. And so basically what happened is, I think the bullets were real at the cabin. She did get shot. Something happened in the cold that affected everybody. And there is one other character from, I think he was from the Nazi side, but he got shot twice in the head, right above his eyes, lost one of his eyes. The doctors were doing x-rays on him and stuff and checking out his skull and all that. And all of a sudden he starts floating out of his bed and goes floating off into space up to the moon and stuff. So I guess this was a whole dream sequence ending with her in the hospital from what actually happened, but she changed everything up in her dream state mind. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, lots of twists and turns, a little confusing. Still not sure if I really got the whole story, but I'll read it again and get it eventually. And I like anything with Fearless Dawn. But yeah, Steve Mannion does a lot of fun things with these books. So another good one shot for Fearless Dawn.
Cool. All right, we're going to jump over to our manga corner with Katie. What you got?
All right, this week I have Stitch and the Samurai, the complete collection manga. It is by Hiroto Wada with a lot of help from their friends, and it's a collaboration between Tokyo Pop and the Walt Disney Company. So I grabbed this just because like the premise of like Stitch the Alien and the Samurai sounded so ridiculous. I had to know what it was. I went in with zero expectations, and this actually was really fun and exceeded quite a bit of any preconceived notions that I had. It's been a good 15 or 20 years since I've watched Lilo and Stitch, so I was coming at it from pretty fresh eyes. So basically the premise is in an alternate world, Stitch lands in feudal Japan rather than Hawaii in 2002. So he kind of crash lands in the middle of these two armies of being led by samurais that are trying to take over each other's castle. I know very little about feudal Japan, so I'm doing my best with the words. And Stitch ends up stopping this war, and at first they're like, well, is he a demon? And then they're like, no, he's not a demon, he's a raccoon. Like, clearly he looks like a raccoon. And at first the main character, our samurai, he doesn't really like Stitch because like he's trying to be a big, tough guy, warrior, inspire the troops. But Stitch ends up winning him over by being so gosh darn cute and playful and mischievous, and ends up helping this character reconnect kind of like with their more playful side. And that's really cute because it leads to several scenes of like the samurai teaching Stitch to read, or they bought a set of cursed dishes that came with a ghost, and then the ghost and Stitch started playing together, and then because only ghosts come out only at night, the samurai's trying to sleep, and he's like, oh my god, would you guys just be quiet? Then they all end up playing. What else? There's a scene where they have to take Stitch to a very important business meeting being held over a tea ceremony, and picking him out all these different outfits, and are hoping that he's gonna behave and not be Stitch. And he does a really great job. He picks up the cups in all the right order and whisks the matcha really properly. That's about the first third of this book. I believe if you bought this in single volumes, there's 3. And then the second one is kind of going into the Stitch lore, that he was originally like an escaped convict in bioweapon, experiment 626. So Jumba and Pleakley, if you remember the movie, are characters that are kind of sent to recover him from the aliens. And they also show up in feudal Japan, which is kind of goofy because they're trying to fit in. Everyone thinks they're a demon, and then they're like, no, we got to get like the right clothes. And then eventually Jumba ends up kind of taking over like a city and modernizing it. So in the middle of feudal Japan, we have this like Jetsons-esque city that is just blowing everyone's minds. Like they cannot figure out how a vending machine works. And they have this one moment where Jumbo and Pleakley try and rewrite their memories. So this one guy who's pretty uptight, he's kind of like a lieutenant to the samurai. He's really uptight and very serious, no nonsense. They rewrite his memories so that he loves to read slapstick comics, and then for the rest of the book he's making jokes about everything. So I guess it kind of worked out. And they get away the first time and we get to actually meet the samurai's father, so that revealed some more about their character. And then kind of the climax of the book is the leader of the Galactic Federation tells Jumba and Pleakley, like, you really need to get Stitch back. He is very dangerous, and we can't let him running around. He's a threat to galactic security. And then they have a really big battle where the samurai and his soldiers build like a giant like wooden soldier to try and use to fight Jumbo and Pleakley's automatons. And obviously they don't want to let Stitch go because by this point they're really attached to him, and even though he's a little pain in the neck, he's their pain in the neck. So they end up winning Stitch on a technicality because the Galactic Federation had basically an edict that said, well, you need to turn over Stitch, and the samurai is like, well, no, actually our edict supersedes yours. And then they pull out these like rolls of legal documents on scrolls that are like, okay, Stitch is a citizen, like he paid taxes, he signed his oath, here's his job. And because I guess the Galactic Federation is as bureaucratic as any other government ever is. They're like, yep, you know what, you're right, you actually you outsmarted us. There's a couple of really cute moments in here where Stitch, despite being an alien, shows quite a lot of humanity. And then it ends with a happily ever after where everyone's happy playing together, and Jumba and Pleakley get to stay, and they're going to be all right too. And the samurai and his soldiers have won a victory and brought peace to the area. And then it just ends with a little denouement of everyone playing and having further adventures and saying this fantastical tale of a beautiful friendship formed in medieval Japan could only come to be through a tear in time and space. They had, so it is credited to one author, but throughout the book they do mention illustrators jumping in to help them. And then there's some previews for some more Disney and Tokyo Pop manga if you want to get them. I really liked this. This is very different than what I normally read. I'm not a Stitch super fan, but it was still super cute. I would give this to both a kid and like somebody who's kind of new to manga. I don't know that I'd say, oh yeah, every adult is really going to enjoy this. But it is something that I would say I'd consider all ages, that it's, you know, as equally acceptable to kids as it is to people who are kids at heart. This was fun. I would read some more from Disney and Tokyo Pop manga. And that's my review of Stitch and the Samurai, the complete collection. This retails for $22. Check it out.
Yeah, when I saw you post that and I saw Stitch, and I'm like, well, she can't mean, you know, like Lilo and Stitch. That's not, you
Yeah.
know. And then I was surprised to be wrong there. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I know. Pretty wild. There's also some other Stitch comics where he's running around with some other characters, so maybe I'll have to check those out. Yeah, who knew? Something for everyone.
Cool. And as we continue to celebrate Katie Day and Batman Day, there's one person who actually did the homework here and brought something Batman related to talk about here. So, Jim, what you talking about?
I have number 12 of the Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries, Volume 3. This is
Nice.
another limited series of that. So 12 of 12. So this is the finale. And this has been an interesting series because Batman has always been a little bit different. We've seen like pure Batman 66. We've seen the animated series. We've seen like slightly different comic book versions of Batman throughout. In this issue, we get Batman Beyond. So this is something really quite a little bit different than what we usually get. It starts out with the Mystery Inc. kids, you know, chasing some monster men or actually being chased by monster men. And they run and hide in a building inside the closet. And all of a sudden they are overcome by some gas and wake up in a futuristic Batman museum in the midst of being robbed by the Royal Flush Gang. The Royal Flush Gang only steals Batman's utility belt when Batman Beyond comes in to thwart the robbery. But unfortunately, the Royal Flush Gang gets away, and Batman Beyond attempts to accuse the Mystery Inc. kids of being accomplices before he realizes that they are not cosplayers. They are actually the kids from Mystery Inc. All very interesting. But unfortunately, the police, including Commissioner Barbara Gordon, are on the way. When she arrives, Commissioner Gordon does not recognize them, despite the fact that Mr. Inc. at a different time has figured out and been known who Barbara Gordon was in her civilian life, so they knew each other. Now, eventually they come back and Batman Beyond tells him, oh yeah, she did remember you after a minute, so, you know, that's okay, don't worry about it. There's a few more weird things like that that happen along the way, but eventually Batman Beyond says, okay, well, the boss wants to see you back at Batcave, and since you already know who he is, and somebody makes a comment about, well, we never bothered to figure out what his secret identity was. It's like, well, I guess the boss will have to deal with that when we get to the Batcave. And then they end up going to a Batcave that looks suspiciously like the museum that they first arrived in. And there they meet. Walking in, they see the boss, or actually Batman, in the more or less classic Batman costume, rather than the old man Bruce Wayne we would expect dealing with Batman Beyond. And he's like, tells them that that they can't do that. So it ends up being that this whole deal with Batman Beyond is a computer simulation that Professor Hugo Strange has set up to try to learn the secret identity of Batman from the Mystery Inc. kids, and they have never been transported to the future at all. But in the very last page of the book, we see Terry McGinnis and Old Man Bruce Wayne sitting in their Batcave watching a replay of these events happening on the Bat computer, and talking about how implausible it was for Doctor Strange or Professor Strange to try to learn that from the Mystery Inc. kids. And then we see like a future version of Scooby and some new kids doing some training in the Batcave. And the very last panel there says, "Never the end." So I'm assuming that means there will be a season 4 or volume 4 of the Batman and Scooby-Doo mysteries to be coming out soon.
Yeah, it's good to see those still running. We talked about issues 1 through 12 on there, and then the fact that they just wrapped up volume 3 of it is kind of crazy that much time has passed already. But
This has been one of my favorite series, because it is Batman, and in some ways it's a very ridiculous Batman, which is not what I usually prefer. But it has been fun, and you get to see so much of the different aspects of the Bat family and the all the different villains in a different light. And it's been lighthearted and not stressful to read. You can pick up one issue and not be missing anything else in the rest of the world. So I think I will continue to read this one going forward. So
cool. All right. The one thing I have here is actually something from the beginning of the year that I forgot I had. Finally dug it out. It is a one-shot from Aftershock Comic called All Night and Every Day. It's time to party. While celebrating is the last thing grief-stricken introvert Michaela wants to do, her friends trigger out for the night and end up trapping her in a hellish curse, a party that never ends, with no way to escape, not even by dying. Now she must navigate the labyrinth of the legendary Banquet Hideous all on her own and learn its terrible secrets before she is consumed forever. This horrifying new 48-page prestige format one-shot by acclaimed writer Ray Fawkes and sensational artist Andrea Fratella will rock you to your core eternally. This is colored by Sarah Colella and letters and logo design by Matt Kreutzer. So I was intrigued. Picked up any of the other aftershocks, the one shocks, if you will, the one shot issues, and I think it's a good, it's a nice little commitment to get a interesting story. I didn't read the synopsis on this one prior, so I kind of went in. We have this story about Michaela, who for the last 2 years is actually continuing to search for her missing fiance, and her friends are all like going out for a party, and they're trying to get her to move on, and she's attached to this case, and she keeps kind of checking in with the detectives who basically have given up at this point. It is something where they were about to get married, and her husband or fiance, soon to be husband, had disappeared and basically never showed up. And it's a mystery that's been sitting with her for 2 years. Her friends tried to get her to to kind of let loose and kind of have fun at least for one night, and promising that they will get back to looking for him. And so they go out for a night, and you kind of get the personalities from all of her friends. And you got like a jerk guy who's just kind of like hitting on everybody, and you got the supportive friend who's also just trying to help her move on. But as you go into this party, it gets kind of crazy because each room you kind of go into, there's just a lot of insanity going on, and it almost feels like there's a different theme, like a different decade theme, as you kind of go from room to room. You start to get a kind of a trippy sensation that these characters are going through almost these passages that kind of lead them into something else, much more than just a simple party. They're kind of wondering if they're being drugged, what's being taken, things, if their mind is playing with them, and if they're drunk and things like that. But as they continue on, it starts to get more horrific. The pacing of the story was so well done, and the fact that I was just I was reading it really fast. It just seemed to get worse and worse and worse as you went on. So it was very anxiety driven when you're just seeing all this bad stuff happen. And you got Michaela, who's kind of went off on her own, and she's kind of separated from her friend group. Um, and then there's like another crazy thing where you got this like Nazi room going on, and like every little theme that's happening in each of these rooms at this what seemed like a very kind of mediocre location, like a house party. There really wasn't much. They were kind of talking about how bland it was when they were walking into it, not knowing it was just going to turn into this real crazy, trippy, horrific thing. And since this came out in March, I will give a little tease. The synopsis, one of them on the back is talking about, she'll discover a horrible truth about her own past. And once again, this has been out since March, so the tease I will give is that as she goes through these rooms, she obviously, maybe it was obvious to everybody else, but she runs into her long lost fiance. The missing fiance of 2 years happens to be trapped in these rooms and in this house party. And yeah, so that is kind of my overall sell for this. This is just a one shot issue, has no ties to anything else, and it's just, an interesting little horror thing. And it wasn't, typically scary, it wasn't that kind of horror, and it just is just kind of messed with the mind. And like I said, the pacing of it just had the heart pumping and the page flipping at the same time. But yeah, this is an interesting little experiment here, and this was all night and every day. Based on the content inside the book, you wouldn't really guess that from your cover. Just looks like you're looking at some kind of romance type of story, and not. But your only tip off is that it's an aftershock comic, and knowing the publisher, they lean towards a lot of the horror type stories. So, all night and every day. And we have one more pick from the weekly reviews. Kirby, what you got?
Comic Book Guys presents The Revenants Escaped from New York Comic Con.
Yeah, what is this?
This cover is the reason I bought it. You got a bareheaded character with Wolverine claws, and basically it's what it says on the cover. You got a couple comic book guys on their way to New York Comic Con, and they are just absolute dicks to everybody. And they run into her bareheaded friend in a bar, and they just constantly pick on him and call him all kinds of names and stuff. Everybody that's dressed at the con and stuff, they're giving him a hard time. And it's like, you got a comic book shop, you got a stand set up at the con to sell stuff, and everybody that comes up to you, you're just calling them different names, giving them crap. And it's just, yeah, I don't know why these two guys had so many issues with everybody when it's part of their industry.
Yeah.
But we get to meet oh, come on now. Character at first, I'm thinking Franken Punisher type, but it's a big, huge Snake Plissken cosplayer, and his boss, who's running the con, is this goofy guy with these weird glasses on, and just kind of creepy, hanging out on the behind everybody and just slowly walks in, and then him and the Snake Plissken character go off to discuss what they got going on. Well, here he's a scientist. Our Snake Plissken character happens to have kind of like Deadpool style flesh, and all of a sudden we see a bunch of cosplayers come walking out of the screen mist, and they're like that too, from head to toe. Their skin's missing, just their muscular structure is all that's showing, and they're like zombie style walking towards everybody, going to attack them, and they start jumping on everybody and turning everybody else. And our one comic book character just so happens to be walking around looking for a certain area, and he overhears the head guy and the Snake Plissken guy talking about how they're gonna do something evil at this con, and he notices that the doors are barred shut. They're all chained up, padlocked, so no one's getting out of there. So he gets back to his buddy. They start grabbing weapons, start beheading zombies and stuff like that. And then our bear character comes running out with a set of Wolverine claws that he came across, and he goes all out. He's having a blast, just chopping everybody up. Him I liked. He was a fun character, but the other two guys, I just didn't like their attitude for where their position is. And yeah, they keep battling things away. We see a lightsaber become part of it. The old Khan two-handed sword thing, stuff like that. They were just grabbing whatever they could get their hands on. And our one character that overheard everything, he gets picked up by the Snake Plissken, brought down to the basement, and the scientist is going to do some stuff to him. And so the other guys just make their way to save him, and you'll have to read the story to find out what happens in the end and stuff. But the battle I liked, the whole and they're all the same. This is like probably the 10th or 12th zombie con style storyline I've read now, but they're always fun. I like what they do and the little twists and turns. A lot of parodies in here, but the joking style of the parodies, some of them were on the side, just didn't really hit really good. But apparently, I don't know if this is true. I mean, this is done by Daniel Flanagan, Austin Flanagan, Aaron Flanagan, and Patrick Mulholland. And I guess this is or is coming, but the back page says now a major motion picture, The Revenants. So I'm guessing this is leading into this. It doesn't say what platform or anything that it's on. It just gives you the movie poster look to it. So yeah, I guess we might see a movie about it in the near future about these characters. But yeah, it wasn't terrible. I just didn't like how comic book store owners would be that rude to your customers. But other than that, it was fun.
Definitely not the behavior we got from David and Kurt from Crimson Cowl Comics and Collectibles. So.
No.
Alrighty, that is going to do it for the weekly reviews, but we do have another segment, and that is the news.
And now the news.
Welcome to part 3 of my Fan Expo Chicago 2023 recap. Check out the past 2 videos to see me go through Artist Alley. It started with Winston Gambro, who is here on our very show. But I am on part 3 now. I saved most of my creature-related stuff. It's not all specific creature, but there is creature-related things in each of the things I'm about to show here. So what I was really excited about going to Fan Expo Chicago and Artist Alley, to see some Oh Yeah Comics alums, some of the customers and local artists from the Skokie area, Chris O'Connell and Ryan Vila. They participate in the like Monday night hangouts, and over the last couple years, definitely have befriended them, and it was cool to see them at Fan Expo as artists. They've been sharing a table there, I think, for several years now, and it was cool to experience that for the first time, not knowing that they did that. And jumping into it, they had a collaboration that they were selling, and is this oversized kind of book, this pamphlet type of book, and it is called get the official name here. Well, actually, it might just be called Scary Comics 90 Years. I think that maybe is what it's referred to. And I asked Chris on a description, a quick pitch on what this book is. He goes, it's a mockumentary of a fictional horror sci-fi comics company and the creators that make the books. Each illustration is a fake cover that takes on different genres, including classic book horror to kaiju to slasher to the current zombie craze. And what's really cool about this is that the way it's organized, it has a table of contents, gives all the credits, they do the artwork, and they share the duties on there for each of these genres that they're highlighting. And so it's a fake like comic company across 90 years, and they're making all of this stuff up. They talk about Fear Funnies issue number 312, and they have a cover to this Fear Funnies number 312, and they make up creators, and they go through and saying ever since its inception in the 1930s, Scary Comics has been at the forefront of horror and science fiction combined. For those new to this daring comic company, Fear Funnies, the flagship book, featured a host of rotating creators and their characters through short serialized arts. The most popular, The Doctor, by heralded great writer artist Joshua Aronowitz, took place between issues 300 and 312. And they just have all of these facts about things that don't exist, and just kind of really like building the lore of this idea that it is, this 90-year comic company. They have The Vault of Fright number 15. So they got some awesome drawings there. For fake covers and fake, this was a 10 cents book. Beware the bite of the Vampire King. So it just like it has the kind of the essence of like the EC Comics type of horror covers and things like that. They've got Scary Science number 19, Cellar of Terror number 12, Weird Thrillers number 121. They've got the Macabre of Love number 6. They've got the Visceral Visuals from Ancient History number 2, The First Encounter with Alien Gods. And just looking at all these drawings, these Chris and Ryan just do awesome monster work, and Chris does a lot of skull work and stuff like that. I'll give their Instagrams a plug towards the end here so you can check their work out. Scary Science number 374. One thing that was cool about this, saying that if I purchase this, I get a choice of a poster print based on one of these covers of my choice. And I know some of us had talked about this off air, but I picked Weird Transform Tales number 18, because it has this werewolf character. It says unworldly tales of transformation in the Scary Comics tradition, and it has a kind of looking like a Wolverine-esque type of approach on this character, but I thought this was one of the coolest ones. So with the purchase of this Scary Comics guide, this special, got to select that print. And so that was super cool. And then the other thing, flipping through some original art, I know Chris was doing some sketch cards, things that they both have sketch cards at beautiful downtown Skokie for Oh Yeah Comics. And but so they had some of those there. They were taking commissions. And then I saw that Ryan had just a big like art portfolio of these large pencil drawings. And I made it a mission to hunt for the creature from the Black Lagoon. I've been making that my theme for my convention going this year, just out of just randomness, just being like, yep, I need some more creature stuff. And Ryan had this awesome pencil art here. kind of a collaboration of different characters. You definitely had the creature down there, but yeah, this one I totally dug, and this was something that was just super cool. It's a pretty large piece, had a really awesome price on it, and it was cool to own something this large. And it was just his take on these universal monsters, and yeah, it felt pretty cool to pick that up. And I wasn't expecting to, I know their work and everything like that, but I was happy to see they actually had something of the creature. So yeah, Chris and Ryan, you can find them online. We have the art of Chris O'Connell. So Chris O'Connell at the art of Chris O'Connell 2 rather, and that'll be up on the board here. And then Ryan, his here, and however you pronounce it. So his last name is Vila, so it's at the Vila artist, but it's all kind of combined in one word. So that's the_VIL artist. Once again, that'll be on the YouTube screen there for people to check out and see a selection of the work. But yeah, I've talked with Chris mostly, but I've definitely hung out with both of them at some Oh Yeah Comics events and stuff like that. But it was cool to kind of hang out and see them at their table, stop by, show them stuff I was picking up and everything. So here they are, Chris and Ryan. As we go down the line, unfortunately, I was doing some search. I could not find who actually made this. There's no information on here on who the creator was, but this creator had an entire booth of fake breakfast cereal posters, basically, and just like box art. And I looked through, he probably had, like, let's say there was 75 of them up on like his big board. And I'm looking through all of them. I'm seeing creature related stuff. I'm seeing superhero stuff. But I'm not seeing a creature from the Black Lagoon. And then finally I asked him, like, oh, maybe I'm missing it because there's so much to look at. But I'm like, do you have a creature? And he's like, oh, give me a second. He's looking on his phone. He's like, yep, I got a creature. You want one? I'm like, yeah. So he had this whole system set up that he had all of his art that he had done, and he's got a printer set, and he just printed this within minutes, just let it dry. And but yeah, so he had this creature crunch breakfast that will have you hopping, no Fibian. uh there's a free egg inside, according to this, so that's a fun little treasure that you can get in here. And yeah, so the creature crunch, it was cool to get this poster, and it was fun to just see that whole process where he just went through his files. And even though he didn't have one hanging up, he's like, yeah, I definitely did the creature, and then just whipped up a print right there in person. So but yeah, looking at it though, I don't have any information. I don't know if I just missed grabbing a card, or if I was just, because I was on the way out realizing that I'm like, oh, he doesn't have anything. But I'm going to continue searching, going through the Fan Expo guest list. So maybe the information will be right here. If I don't find it, then hopefully I can see that person again sometime. Continuing on with the creature, I came across Chroma Coma, original oil pastel artwork by W. Andrew Shepard. And they had a bunch of prints set up, and I was flipping through, and I found the monster box, and I'm flipping through, I'm not seeing any creature, and just I'm getting to the end of it, and I'm like, nope, this one's going to be a bust. I see every other monster, but not the creature. And literally the last one in his bin was the creature from the Black Lagoon. So this was his take here, once again, done by W. Andrew Shepard. The original artwork is original oil pastel artwork, and I picked up a beautiful print. I love the tint on that one there. And yeah, so that filled my creature void there. If I line it up, maybe it's my head now. I don't know if it's lined up, but that's that. Okay, and now I'm reaching the last thing on my list here. Agnes Garbaska, who is known for like My Little Pony. She's done like DC superhero girl stuff. She is a contributor to the Dead Man Tells the Spooky Tales that Franco and a ton of collaborators made. This graphic novel for kids. So her name was on this. She had done some work on it. So I've got like probably like half a dozen signatures in this book around. So right now, so it's fun to take that around and have Agnes go ahead and sign that one. she had a prelude to what I think is a web comic. I'm trying to find to see if there was more of this, but this was an older printing, not too many of these left, and it's a hardcover kind of a storybook edition. And it's called You, Me, and Zombie. And it's about a girl, her dog, and the zombie apocalypse. And this is a very cute short storybook. Once again, I think it's maybe it was presented as a web comic. I'm doing some more research on this, but yeah, this was a prelude of this here, and it's just an adorable little story of a girl, a dog, a scooter, and a zombie apocalypse. But once I saw the title, I just loved that You, Me, and Zombie. I thought that was adorable, and knowing her work is leans towards the adorableness. She does a lot of awesome videos on her Instagram page and YouTube and everything like that. She's always just doing fun things. She's one of those that works to try to get the algorithm and try to catch the algorithm. So she does a lot of funny posts and stuff. She does like a lot of time lapse and things like that. She was also a contributor for a pinup in a giant size Super Gitchy special of Madman from years ago. So when I plugged her name into my CLZ app and just seeing like what I all had stuff from her, and this was definitely one of them. And once again, I always try to find, because the Allreds have worked with many of artists when it came to pinups and things like that. So usually when I go to these Comic Cons, I can always find something that these artists can sign that is Madman related. And she was excited to see this. I don't think this gets thrown her way too much. And this was her take on our Frank Einstein Madman, and it might be a little Buffy nod because it's saying grr, arg, Mutant Enemy Productions. So that's a kind of a fun little thing there. But yep, so she tagged that book there, so that this one has contributions from many an artist. So I just love to eventually get more signatures. And now we are at the actually I think I already put it up here by mistake. It's somewhere here. Here it is. Okay, we're at the grand finale of my Fan Expo 2023 adventures. Knowing that Agnes was on the guest list, it was my mission to get a commission from her, a commission mission, if you will. And she had posted some sketch cards that she put up for sale a couple weeks prior to the con, and I almost scooped some up, and I was just like, oh, I should just hold off. And then I just happened to see that she was on the guest list, so I'm like, oh, I can get something in person now. So I'm glad I did hold off on that, because I got to meet her, got to talk to her. She was the first one I went to at the convention. That was the number one mission, to meet Agnes and go through her stuff, talk to her, and then get an original commission that she drew right there in front of me. I will be putting the process pictures up in the post here, so check out that YouTube video. If you're listening to this later on iTunes, you'll see all these goodies that way. So she got very excited when I asked her to do the creature from the Black Lagoon, because I figured her cutesy style would be perfect to see this character. And she got very excited because she said I had not drawn this character in quite some time, and the last time she did was right here in Chicago. So I'm like, hey, maybe it's something in the water here that, people want creature commissions over here in the Midwest. But so she was very excited to do so, got to chat with her. And here we go. This is the original commission I got from Agnes here, of the creature from the Black Lagoon. So it's a lovely, she did some watercolors and stuff like that. You get to see a lot of her process right there in the on her Instagram and YouTube videos and stuff. So it's definitely recommended to check her out. Her information will be put up on here. I believe it's just the Agnes Garbuska website.com, that whole thing. But all that stuff will be thrown up in posts, so you can see that. And I'm just making myself a note here to make sure I get that stuff on there. So yeah, it was an awesome trip. It was fun going down the artist alley and meeting the people I was excited for. There was a couple other people on the list, but I kept it pretty casual. I wasn't doing a lot of line waiting, and I just kind of didn't want to stress out too much. And those cons can be very overwhelming. There's so many things going on, and I just kind of want to go in pretty relaxed. And it was a pretty darn good time. So that was the Fan Expo 2023 recap edition, last this episode and the past two episodes. And yeah, so going forward here, all we have left to talk about is MightyCon, which at the moment, myself and David had formed a healthy chunk of talking about our MightyCon experience. We have future clip-in hangout and interviews. We're going to do one with Kirby, and we're going to hit up some of the artist friends and stuff that hang out over at MightyCon. So that look for that in the feed sometime down the road. There's a lot of stitching to happen and some stuff to be recorded, so it won't be in the near future. But make sure you subscribe. That way you won't miss it. So yeah, that is going to do it for the Fan Expo recap. And we do have one more thing in the news, is diving into the September previews catalog. This episode, we're going to dive in with the Marvel and the DC for products coming out in November and beyond. And we're going to start with the Marvel catalog. And just because I did a lot of talking, I'm going to have Kirby start so I can take a breath and drink a water. So let's hit up the Marvel catalog. What you got?
All right, first up.
What's that?
I went up too far and I went past it for a second there. I'm trying. Okay, there it is. Deadpool 7 Slaughters #1. It's a one-shot by Marvel Comics. Variety of fun covers. Written by Rob Liefeld, Cullen Bunn, Cody Ziegler, Mark Guggenheim, Justina Ireland, and Gail Simone. Art by Rob Liefeld. Greg Land, Will Potasio, David Baldian, and Philip Sevi. I did so good at the start. Welcome to a week in the life of Wade Wilson, the best mercenary Marvel's ever had. Just ask him. From facing off with rival killers to top secret assassinations, Deadpool has a lot of work to do in this blood-soaked, oversized issue full of fan favorite creators, past and future. A nice little Deadpool one-shot. I'm going to pick it up. I don't remember where it was, but there is one other comic that for some reason has, I think, cover A of this as part of their image in one of the characters' hands on the cover. But if I come across it again, I'll mention it later.
Yeah. All right, let's jump over to Katie. Anything from Marvel?
Sure, the Yoda trade paperback from Star Wars. This was a maxi series. I had grabbed issue 1, and then I'm like, I'm trying to go to New Zealand, so I'm gonna save my money for that and grab the trade when it comes out. So Yoda, the trade paperback.
Cool. Jim, anything from Marvel?
Unfortunately, I have no picks.
Okay, fair enough. I'm jumping over with Thanos #1, a 4-issue miniseries. Thanos versus the Illuminati. The Mad Titan descends upon Earth to retrieve something he has lost, and the Illuminati must band together to stop him because they're the ones. This is by Christopher Cantwell and Luca Pizzari, and it's a Thanos miniseries. They don't come around too often, so every time they do, I pick it up because I love our Mad Titan Thanos. Kirby.
Howard the Duck, #1 one-shot. Chip Zdarsky, Joe Quinones, and friends help Howard celebrate his 50th anniversary in this all-new one-shot. Meet Howard. He's a hard-boiled PI with problems by the duckload, but a cosmic, all-seeing friend, known as the Peeper, is giving him a chance to see what his life could be, the joys he could have, all the ways his life could suck way less than it does now. In other words, why if? But yeah, cover A has a fun cover with Thor's hammer crushing his 50th birthday cake while Thor and Hulk battle it out outside his window. But yeah, so happy to see Howard's back.
Yeah, the creative team behind the more popular run of the modern era and stuff. So it's yeah, this is exciting. This one shot is also on my list as well. So that's 2 people for Howard the Duck. Just throwing that out there. All right, jump over to Katie.
I'd also be interested in Howard the Duck, and hope he has a great birthday.
All right, we are going to put that on the list. I'm going to make a note so I remember to tell the rest of the club Howard the Duck one shot coming in November. And I had a little typo there because the U and the I are very close to each other on the keyboard. So I'll let people figure out what I accidentally just typed there. Jumping over to Spider-Man. Now, I'm making a big decision in my life here. This is me less promoting the upcoming gang war that's happening in the Amazing Spider-Man book and talking about my transition from going single issues on Spider-Man to the trade paperback waiting. That's the what I own more Spider-Man comics than anything else that I own, and it's just getting there's so many stories and there's so many things happening, and so I'm making that transition to save some money on the specific Spider-Man stories. So the gang war is starting. So I don't know where the math lies, but I'm thinking that with the prelude and the start of the gang war, that's where I'm stopping in single issue format and assuming that's where I'll pick up. But I'm in that transition point because I'm like, all right, I gotta rein it in here. There's so many Spider-Man issues piling up, and I'd much rather just read them in a chunk. So the gang war is happening. There's a million issues and tie-ins. I'm not purposely going through any of that. I'm good with just the Amazing Spider-Man run that hasn't really failed me yet. I've pretty much done that for all the Spider-Man arcs. So, yep, the gang war is coming up for Amazing Spider-Man. Kirby?
I'm gonna do it. Punisher Volume 13, #1 by Marvel Comics. Is this the return of Frank Castle or the start of something else? Frank Castle has disappeared, but evil will always need to be punished. With all new threats rising to claim innocent victims, criminals will need to be aware of a dangerous vigilante helping or hunting them from the shadows. Who is the new Punisher? What put him on his path of vengeance? And when the smoke clears, will he even make it out alive? It's John Wick meets the fugitive in this action-packed new saga from David Pepose and Dave Wachner as the Marvel Universe meets the next generation of punishment. I'm looking forward to see who fills the shoes or what happens. So I'll at least check out the first 3.
Cool. Katie?
My last pick from Marvel is going to be Peach Momoko doing Star Wars Visions. I'm coming to quite enjoy her work. I have a few Star Wars Insiders that she did alternate covers for, and last week I picked up a gorgeous variant of Princess Leia that she had done, and I quite like her work, so I want to check that out.
Yeah, it's been cool to see Marvel give her a lot of creative control when it comes to her doing the I'm forgetting the title of those books that she was doing, her own specific series that she did like
Demon Days?
Yeah. When she was doing the Demon Days stuff and kind of reinventing the Marvel characters and her vision and drawing and stuff like that. And it was cool to also see that listed for the Star Wars as well. So yeah. Peach has definitely been a rising star and definitely has the work to back it up.
Yeah, and fingers crossed that maybe she'll get a merch line. Earlier in the year, they featured Elsa Chartier's work on some stuff on Shop Disney, and I was like, I love her work. I have some things by her, so maybe Peach will get one too. Anyway.
Cool. That is it for all like my new stuff from Marvel there. Everything else is ongoing. So, and that was it for Katie. So Kirby, whatever you had to talk about Marvel, go ahead.
This is probably my last one, but I'll double check in a second. What If Dark Tomb of Dracula #1 one-shot by Marvel Comics. Legend Marv Wolfman returns to Tomb of Dracula and the character he co-created. What if the legendary Dracula transformed Blade the Vampire Slayer into a vampire? So yeah, I definitely picked that one up. And
definitely seems like a Kirby pick.
This one I'm still debating on. I probably won't. I'm not big on X-Men, but they have X-Men Blue Origins #1 one-shot by Marvel. The definitive Nightcrawler origin story. This is the one you can't miss, true believer. You think you know how the beloved Blue Devil came into this troubled world? You think you know the tale of his mendacious Mama Mystique? You don't. Mother and son reunite in a mold-shattering tale that exposes secrets held for decades and redefines both characters forever. A collector's item in the making. I did not know Mystique was his mother. I mean, it would make sense, just skin color-wise, but yeah, I thought he was just a lost soul from Russia or whatever. But yeah, that's
Smurfette is their daughter, so
yeah. I kind of want to read it, so I'm debating on it. But yeah, that's it for my Marvels.
all right, we're gonna jump over to DC Comics. We'll kick it off with Katie to keep with the rotation here. Anything from DC from Katie?
Yeah, it looks like there was two Christmas specials that I thought looked pretty good. There was one with Harley Quinn presents, and then another one, Silent Night, but night spelled Knight.
Yeah, we got those. Yeah, DC's "Twas the Might Before Christmas"
Oh, okay.
with the Bat Mite and stuff, and
Okay, I just completely failed on the titles, but the two Christmas ones from DC.
well, that's one of them. I don't know where the other one is, but I remember seeing them.
Swing and a miss. All right.
I was thinking they're back to back, but there's one there, so I remember seeing the night one. I just don't remember where it is. Yeah, and then we are on to Jim. Anything from DC Comics?
Haven't been looking, but that Night Before Christmas sounds interesting.
Cool.
I was gonna get the DC's Might Before Christmas also. I don't know if you want to make a Christmas pick or something.
Yeah, so let me make a note of that. And I wasn't getting it, but that would get me to throw it in there. So let me get back to it here now that I turned away from it, just so I can remember to tell everybody and post the pictures within the club for those who want to join in. And it's taking longer than I had hoped, but it's somewhere in here. So yeah, DC's "Twas the Might Before Christmas." Yep, one shot. We got a whole collaboration of people in there, and it's an 80 page one shot for $10. So all right. So that was Jim. Now we're on to me. Now I got to go back to where my bookmark was. Something I'm not getting, but I wanted to promote because I'm trying to, once again, cut down on some stuff. But Batman Offworld #1, Jason Aaron, art and cover by Doug Mahnke. And yeah, so we have superstar writer Jason Aaron teams up with the blockbuster artist Doug Mahnke for the fight of the Dark Knight's life. A routine night in Gotham City for a young Batman proves to be anything but routine when the crime fighter is confronted with the sort of foe he's never faced before, one from beyond the stars. A universe possible alien threats leads Batman to make a daring decision to venture alone into the far reaches of the cosmos for the very first time, where the Dark Knight will face the fight of his life. I didn't read the synopsis, but now that it did, now it's kind of selling me on it. But yeah, this is Batman Offworld #1. Yep, so I just want to spotlight that one. Kirby?
That's it for my DC, other than a couple sketch covers I was thinking of picking up, a Wonder Woman's Facsimile edition and some Batman like 89 or something like that.
Cool. Katie, anything else from DC?
No, that's it.
Jim? Okay, and the last one I'm talking about here, I'm excited to read it, but I'm buying it as a future present for my friends' kids. They don't watch this video, so they're not going to know this is happening. But meet Gotham's toughest hench pets in this adorable new DC graphic novel for kids. It is called Barkham Asylum. Who is a good boy? Jester is. Well, he wants to be. Maybe he is. He's the Joker's dog, so of course he's funny, but his sense of humor is about to be put to the test, because when the supervillains of Gotham get thrown into Arkham, their hench pets go to the maximum security pound known as Barkham Asylum. This just sounds like a fun romp. I am totally on board, so this is going to be one of those where I read and then put into the hands of some kids that are going to love it too. So there's a little preview art there for our Barkham Asylum. But yeah, this looks like a fun title. Definitely going to check out that new graphic novel for kids. All right. And I think that does it for me, and I think that covers everybody. So those were the Marvel and DC catalogs. We can't possibly cover everything, so we always encourage everybody to check with their local comic shop, check with your online retailers of choice, and get those pre-orders in. Let those stores know about the comics that you want. That way, they're set aside for you. You get them off the shelf. They save them for you. Ask about a pull box subscription, and then it also helps the publishers and the creators and everybody who's making these things show that you got some confidence in them, that you want their stuff, and then helps them make more of it. So previews are very important. In our next episode, we will cover the giant previews catalog, which is the independent comics, the merchandise, the apparel, the collectibles, all of that fun stuff. So yeah, we got some good stuff coming up. Once again, Marvel Unleashed is going to be the next club pick, the start of a 4-issue miniseries with some Marvel pets and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be talking about that in a future episode. And time for some plugs. They're all in the rolling credits at the end. So the quick version is crimsoncowl.com for info and original webcomics. Crimson Cowl Comic Club on YouTube. Hit subscribe, hit the like button, comment, share, all of that fun stuff. This is where we do most of the work when it comes to promoting the show in the video version. We also have some Hellboy episodes up there, and we recorded a lot more. So we're getting ready to get those stitched together behind the scenes. And we covered all of the Hellboy stories in the deluxe library editions. The Crimson Cowl, all one word, on Instagram. Crimson Cowl Comic Club on iTunes. Subscribe, rate, and review. We are a little delayed on posting those due to browser issues, but that will hopefully be fixed soon. That's why we always encourage the YouTube version, because those are up and unlimited space and ready for you. Then we have Crimson Cowl Comic Club at yahoo.com if you want to reach out to us, if you have any questions or comments, maybe some future letters page questions. If throwing out a random question, it can be fun, it can be serious, it can be silly, then we can all answer it right here on the show. Kirby has a spin-off podcast called Under the Cowl of MS. Kirby, is there anything you want to promote? What's happening? What recently came out, or what's on deck for Under the Cowl of MS?
Recently we got some more unpackings, and we got a re-review of the whole month of the Archie Arch challenge out there, and just lots of fun videos, drawing, stuff like that I've been putting up whatever I can. So trying to put a video a day or a video every other day up. So check it out.
Excellent. So yeah, subscribe to Under the Cowl of MS wherever you get your podcast, as well as YouTube, because that is where all the action is happening over there. So I have some art accounts on Facebook and Instagram at Anthony Laatsch. My handle's down here, LAATSCH. I don't know if it actually shows up here, so I'll just do both just in case. And then also I'm the host of Cartoonist by Night on YouTube, 4 creative friends hanging out and drawing. Recently released a Jack Kirby special. We have one episode that's currently being edited, another fun random episode, but we are in the an interesting phase where we're going to start opening up to some guests. That's something that we had planned for since the beginning, but we wanted to kind of get our foot out there and kind of find what our show is. And we have got a couple of very familiar people, some names that are often dropped on this very show, that actually reached out to us and said, "Hey, when are we going to be on Cartoonist by Night?" And we said, "Soon." So that's going to happen within the next couple months there, as we start to branch off into the next era of that show. Cartoonist by Night on YouTube, cartoonistbynight.com. That is going to do it for this episode. All of the information on those links are in the description of the YouTube, as well as the rolling credits. That is going to do it for this episode. Happy birthday, Katie. Happy
Thank
birthday,
you.
Batman. This whole time, I've been Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
To be continued, old chum.